Hi everyone, Philip here. Welcome to part 7 of my What's Wrong With Me series. As usual, I do live beside a gas station and Main Street in a very busy college town. I record these as late as possible, but if you hear cars drive by or any noise like that, sometimes the mic picks it up. There's nothing I can do about that, so I want to throw that out there. So, without further ado, let's get into chapter 7 of my series, this one called A Baker's Dozen. For those that are wondering why it's called A Baker's Dozen, this is chronicling the end of my 13-year relationship. I was debating omitting this from the overall story, but in good conscience, I can't tell my 10-year odyssey, my 10-year journey, and then completely skip 2 years of events that happened in a 2-year span of time that was caused by major events and then precipitated major events after the fact. So this isn't a smear campaign, as none of this is. This is just my version of events that happened from 2011 to 2013. As always, there are two sides to every coin, two sides to every story. This is mine. To give some backstory on me and my ex, we met in September of 2000. Our meeting was very serendipitous. I won't go into it in this video, but I think one day in the future I'll tell the story of how we met because it was actually pretty cool. For years and years, it was one of my favorite stories to tell. The story started for the video series in 2009 in Phoenix. We moved to Phoenix in 2004, 2005. So we have been in Phoenix for almost 5 years at this point. We complemented each other nicely, like two puzzle pieces that fit. My ex was very much a head in the clouds kind of guy, and I was very much a feet on the ground kind of guy. We were a good fit, and anyone that knew us and knew us as a couple could attest to that. I have friends to this day that knew both of us from back then and would probably agree that we were one of those couples that you're like, yeah, they work. And it was cool. It was cool to be in that relationship because we were each other's first everything. First relationship, first boyfriends, first everything. And by 2009, we were very much a well-oiled machine. You know, I was working at Blockbuster, making good money, enough for him to go to college, which he always wanted to do. But then, if you've watched the videos up to now, you know everything started to hit the fan, and rapidly. The first accident happened in April of 2009. Moved back to Ohio, stuff with my mom happened. Eventually, the person we were living with moved out. We had to find our own place. There was all that stress. And then he gets arrested, goes to jail, check bounces for rent. We get evicted, almost homeless, moving with new family. And here we are. Let's rewind a little bit, though, because there's something very important that I think needs to be said out loud for reference for later. After my mom left me with her roommate, July into August 2009, my ex knew how crushed I was. I don't think my mom ever understood, even to this day, I don't think she understands the effect it had on me, especially the considering that I almost died, you know, months prior in a car accident. I remember vividly my ex having a talk with me, looked me right in the eyes, and he said, I will never abandon you. I promise you that I will not abandon you like she did. I want you to remember that. I will never forget the first time seeing him in jail. I go to see him in jail, and it's the whole thing like you see on TV. It's the glass and the phone and the whole nine. And I hadn't seen him since he left that night with the cops and never came back. And I will never, ever forget the look on his face. It was pure panic mixed with fear, mixed with sadness. You could see it on his face that he thought that I was going to leave him. And looking back, maybe I should have. But at that point, you know, we'd been together 11 years. I thought he was my soulmate. I still to this day think he was. I don't think we have just one per lifetime. I think you can have several soulmates. I think the soul is a very dynamic and interesting thing. It's not a one-dimensional thing that's only connected to one other person. So I wasn't going to throw away 11 years for this very, very big series of mistakes. But I was still very upset, and I will never forget the look on his face, as said. Now, this is where things can get tricky. As said in the last video, I did my best to walk on eggshells with the situation of what was going on in the house that I was taken into. I will always be thankful for what they did. They essentially saved me from being homeless. And I will never forget that. So I'm not here to sling mud. But I also can't pretend that what was happening there wasn't happening. I can't pretend that it didn't happen. Again, I'm not discounting anything they did for me. It has to be known. It has to be known that the underlying current in that house was that the dad had a very violent temper. It wasn't the reason for the fracturing of my relationship. I'll never say that. But it was definitely a catalyst, one of the catalysts that contributed to the cracking. I do want to put it out there that the dad was not some tyrant bully all the time. There'd be nights where people were either in bed or just gone because they didn't want to be there, where we would be watching Sunday Night Football together, and it would just be like talking to a completely different person. That guy was a really cool dude to be around. We would have these really cool talks, and he was very genuinely interested in getting to know you and wanting to talk to you. You know, unfortunately, that guy wasn't around all the time, and I wish he was. So all the stuff going on in that house with the family and the very strained dynamic they had, that's all over here. That's going to be the base that I build off of. So that's that. Let's go over to this, back over here. My ex gets out of jail, and he moves back in. I was mad. Mad as being very polite. And he knew I was mad. But, you know, I thought I was upset for good reason. By the time he got out, I was kind of avoiding him. I definitely own up to that. But in my defense on that, I grew up in an abusive household, verbally and physically. And I had taught myself over time to really, I learned early on that I had my mom's temper. And this is one of the things I taught myself. I was internalizing. I was trying to figure it out. Much like the second accident. After the second accident happened, and I went quiet, like stone quiet for like a week, I was working stuff out. I wasn't ignoring people. I wasn't trying to be all super dramatic. I was just trying to figure it out. And that's what I was doing here. I was trying to figure it out. You know, when he asks, why are you distant? Why can't you forgive me? I'm distant for this reason, and I can't forgive you yet because of this reason. But honestly, him saying that to me is really indicative of what was cool about our relationship. The fact that we could be open and honest, and that was probably the strongest part of our relationship, was the communication. But I was doing it because, as I said, I was trying to come to terms with a lot had happened. And it was a lot to digest, and he was back. In the end, we always talked. We always kind of came together and worked things out. Because that's what you do in an adult relationship. I've never been one of those people who understands the mindset of if something's wrong with you, and then someone asks you what's wrong with you, and you say, nothing's wrong. Like, stop that. To me, that is very juvenile. That's very, you're just emotionally messing with people. My rationale behind all of that is, if you cannot communicate like an adult, you do not need to be in an adult relationship. Period. To do anything else is just it's just emotional manipulation. It was gratifying being in a relationship like that, one that didn't have, you know, lies or secrets, because we were always open and honest. Or so I thought. Now, I want it to be known also that the agreement to us living there was an agreement. And the agreement was that while we lived there, we would save up money for a year. And then after a year, we would move out into our own place. I forgot to mention that after my ex got out of jail, he got his job back. They held his job for him, which was actually really cool. They understood. So yeah, he went from, you know, working, jail, boom, out of jail, back to working. So that was really cool of them. So that was part of the agreement, that after a year, we would move out after we saved for said year while living there. That was the entire point of us being there. About 2 months in, the dad asks us if we can start paying $35 a week to help with bills and food and whatnot. I'm not trying to, again, make anybody look bad. These are just the facts of the situation as they happened. The dad was not working. I don't know how long he wasn't working. He wasn't working when I moved in. So essentially, the family lived off of the mom's check. The mom got paid. The dad took the money. It was the dad's money. That's the way it was. But the dad asked us to help out. Of course, we had no problem with that at all. To me, it was the least we could do for everything that they had done for us. So we were at $35 a week for now. And that brings us to the winter months. We're going into November, December. Things started feeling off. My ex was around less and less. Let's see, how can I put this in a way that is respectful to everyone. Bluntly, Justin didn't want to be there. He didn't like being at home, so he wasn't. And since my ex hung out with him all the time, if Justin wasn't there, my ex wasn't there. Then the second accident happened. That's when things really got bad. That was the lowest of lows for me, as far as like physically, emotionally, mentally, all of that. I'm at my just rock bottom after the second accident, and I needed him. I needed him to be that anchor, to just help, steady me. And instead, he just was drifting away. Now, you might be asking, why was your ex hanging out with Justin so much when his boyfriend of 11 years was physically rewound in time to April of 2009, again, when I had regressed completely physically after the second accident? That was not my fault. Let's put a pin in that too. And it wasn't like he wasn't talking to me either. I don't want to make it sound like he was like completely avoiding me. He was just devoting more of his time to not being there, to hanging out with Justin. And when he was home, he was still hanging out with Justin. But found out in January, February of 2012, when he told me that he was in love with Justin. And I said, yeah, I know. I knew early on as well, because me and my ex were very open. As I said, we communicated. We were very, very much, we weren't really the jealous type, either one of us really. And we had that dialogue back and forth. And I knew when he was into someone else, let's just say. Like, not only will he go out of his way to be around that person more, he'll also change things about himself. Like, all of a sudden, he's listening to the Grateful Dead and Pink Floyd and Rush. I'm not saying he didn't like that music before, and that was all he listened to now, because that's what Justin liked. Again, not saying he didn't like that music. I'm just saying he was doing what he was doing on purpose, going out of his way to show that, look, I'm listening to this now too. Look, we have a bond, that kind of thing. And he's very much, I call him a chameleon. At that point in time, I knew him better than anyone did. Anyone. I saw the sides of him that he didn't show anyone else. I should have seen the writing on the wall with that when not only did he tell me that he was in love with Justin, he told Justin that he was in love with Justin. Like, how much he was in love with him and how much he was into him. And not just once. When my ex started hanging out with me less and hanging out with him more, and then it all kind of started making sense. It felt like that not only was he distancing himself because maybe it was too difficult to be around me, because I was too sad or too unhappy or too upset or whatever, he's also distancing himself because he has found a new infatuation. And to Justin's credit, very much to Justin's credit, when my ex told him, he was like, hey, thank you. I'm very flattered, but I'm not interested. Because, he wasn't into dudes. And I always thought that was very cool of him. Very cool of him. He didn't freak out, didn't stop being friends with him. He just said thank you, and that was that. But unfortunately, then things took a turn from bad to worse in that situation. I said a few minutes back that I know my ex better than everyone. I know how he operates. A lot of what people know my ex as is very much the surface, which is true for most anybody. You really only show the real you to people that you can trust, that kind of thing. And after, going on 12 years here, yeah, I could safely say that I knew my ex better than anyone on the planet. One of his favorite sayings about himself was that he could manipulate anyone and anything to get what he wanted. But my ex had a certain psychopathy about him when it came to getting what he wanted or getting an outcome in a situation that he wanted. Even though I could see through it most of the time, it still worked on me occasionally. He would push my buttons to make me mad because he enjoyed watching me get upset because he liked getting a rise out of me. That gave him power. And once I realized that, it stopped working anymore. I'm not saying he was a crappy, horrible person. I would not date a crappy, horrible person. I'm just saying when he wanted something, he would, Machiavellian his way into how he could move and maneuver and move those chess pieces around to play the game. But the problem with the situation there with all of us was he started playing Justin and I against each other. I'm just as disappointed with myself as I am upset with him about it all, because I used to be wise to his machinations. I used to be very, keen. It usually didn't involve me. So if I saw he was making a move, I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. All right, good luck. But I was I wasn't myself, and I certainly wasn't of sound mind or body. Clearly. And he knew that. I was low. I was I was vulnerable. And I honestly believe that he used that to his advantage. And, he had his sights set. And my ex has this thing where when he gets laser focus, watch out. But if I had been 100% aware, had all my faculties about me, I would have seen through it a lot sooner. Because he was, I hate to say snake in the grass, but it's kind of what it was. And he was, moving and planning. So, and I think that him telling me that he loved Justin was also a purposeful thing. I think he did that on purpose. I took it at first that he was honest with me. And that was a sign of how strong we were. I think he was doing it to plant a seed in my head of jealousy and doubt. One, then, that he could water and watch sprout and grow, which is exactly what happened. And I'll tell you right now, if he were sitting right here, right beside me, I guarantee you he would not disagree with anything I said. In fact, he would be proud of his ability to do what he does, because he always was. So I'm not throwing him under the bus to try and make him look like the bad guy. These are just the facts of his personality. But again, it is my point of view, so it is what it is. Take it for what you will. It was, talking how great Justin was, coupled with ignoring any pleas for help. Please hang out with me. Let's watch a movie together. Hey, there's a pay-per-view on Sunday. You want to watch it with me? Oh, no, you're going out with Justin. Oh, and then it would be putting water on that seed so that it would sprout. And it did. I grew to resent Justin. It sucks because he did nothing wrong. He did absolutely nothing wrong. We were being like two pieces on a chessboard. I usually caught the situation before I was even placed on the chessboard. In this situation, I was already on the chessboard being moved around. Yeah, it wasn't really, it wasn't good between us after that. I think our friendship, any friendship we could have had, was sabotaged after he actively started pushing me away and trying to reel in Justin and make me jealous, essentially, is what was happening. And it was working. My boyfriend already told me that he was in love with someone else that he hangs out with all the time. I knew Justin wasn't a threat. But there was always that doubt in the back of my mind. What if the fourth or fifth or sixth time that, my ex says that he loves him, it works? What if Justin says, you know what? We get along really good. We're such good friends. You've chosen me over your ex because that's clearly not working. So let's give it a shot. I'm not into guys, but hell, let's give it a shot. The possibility was there. I knew it wasn't. I knew Justin wasn't gay or bi or anything. But at the time, you don't know. And especially when your ex is going out of your way to show how great that relationship is that they have. Things soured between us after that. I regret that entire situation happening. And I have two major regrets coming out of that. Regret number one is that I didn't see through it faster, because I'm ashamed that I didn't. I understand why I didn't now looking back. Hindsight is 20/20, of course. But I look back now and I'm like, man, I wish I'd seen through it a lot sooner. I should have dumped his ass right then. I mean, let's be blunt. He was trying to replace me, actively trying to replace me. And the second regret that I have is that the friendship that could have been. We wouldn't have been like super besties like he and my ex were, but I think we would have been good friends, and we had enough in common that I think we would have been good friends. And I regret that never happened. And it was never given the chance to. So there was a point, though, that eventually I think my ex got a little cocky and was playing his hand a little too hard, not only with trying to get Justin to like him, but in general. And he kind of went a little too far, and this is when he showed his hand. So here's an example of A, showing that there was manipulation going on, and B, when I became wise to it. One day, this was in the spring, early spring, like March, April of 2012, I confronted Justin. And I forget how it happened now. I forget how, but I remember I just was like, we need to talk. At the time I didn't know, but looking back, he was just this unwitting participant in my ex's game. I don't think he ever saw through it, though. I'm not saying that my ex didn't genuinely like him as a friend. I'm not saying that at all. They had a great friendship together, and they did have a lot in common, and they got along really well. I'm not disputing all of that. I'm disputing intent and purpose. But I'd had enough. I'd had enough of the jealousy. I'd had enough of the being played against me. I'd had enough of wanting my freaking boyfriend back. And I felt like that he was stealing him. I felt like that he was robbing me of, my person. Not realizing that that was the entire point of, the seed and the planting and the growth and all that. And I confronted him. And we're in the living room, we're having this discussion, and I look over, and my ex is sitting on the couch, staring down at the floor with the biggest smile on his face. And it wasn't like he was thinking of a joke. TV wasn't on, so he wasn't watching TV. It was very much, to be blunt, a eating grin. He was very pleased with himself at this moment. I looked over and he was just, had that just smug grin on his face. And the conversation ended. I just walked away. Because then I knew. I knew what was going on. He showed his hand, he dropped that facade long enough for me to finally see through it. And yeah, once I see what's going on, then yeah. And then immediately after that situation, I didn't confront him because I knew he would deny it and laugh in my face. That's what he does. Like, he'll kind of laugh. Like, if you confront him about something and he kind of just like laughs at you like you're stupid, if it's a poker game, that would be his tell. That's his giveaway. So, dear ex, if you're watching this, I've just given you your tell. That's how you admit that you know that whatever you're doing is whatever you're doing. You always ask me over the years how I knew, and that was one of the reasons. It's not your only one, but it was one of the big ones. And I knew that would happen if I confronted him about it. So instead, I tried to analyze it. Why is my ex getting this sick satisfaction out of watching me twist in the wind? Why is he getting this adrenaline high, this mental adrenaline high, I guess, if that makes sense, on playing Justin and I against each other, making me jealous, making sure we don't become friends? Was that the point? In addition to trying to get him to fall in love with him, to also keep us from being friends, because if we became friends, then I'm more of a threat to what he wants not working. I'm not saying that's what it was, but it's bears the thought. Ultimately, it felt like he was punishing me for something. It's that whole, kicking somebody while they're down. Like, why was he going out of his way to do that? I'm already down. I'm already beaten. I'm defeated. And I have a lot on my plate as it is. Why are you trying to knock the plate off the table? Like, instead, help me deal with this plate. Try to take some of the stuff off of my plate, put it on your plate. That'd be great. To this day, I still think that he was, in some way, he was punishing me for something. And it was all but confirmed later on. We'll get to that down the line in this story, but it'll be a little later. To this day, I just don't get what I did to deserve it. Now, before I continue to look like Mr. One-sided, throwing him under the bus guy, let's look at it from his point of view. For instance, how can I put this? I'm going to put two pictures on the screen. This picture is me before the accident, like literally months before the accident. And then this picture is in 2012 of the person that I had become. Now, if you look at those two, that doesn't look like the same person. And I also like showing the two pictures side by side like that because you can see how much the going on 3 years at this point of chronic pain every single day, and then being set back in December and dealing with that all over again every single day. I don't think people realize that pain drains you. You can look at those two pictures, put them up again. If you look at these two pictures, you can literally see the life being sucked out of me. My hair went from being this like poofy, curly, awesome thing. I loved my hair. And it was close to being the same length in both pictures. And picture two was how my hair looked every single day. The curl, the bounce, the life was gone. It was lifeless. You can see it in my eyes. I am drained. And I get it to an extent. I'm not the same guy he fell for. I'm not the same guy he grew to love. I'm not the same Philip that I was before the accident, clearly. Visually, I'm not. Mentally and emotionally, I'm not. I went from being the confident alpha male kind of breadwinner to this broken husk shell of what I used to be. And I always believed, in the early years, I believed that if I worked enough and I gave it time and I was patient, that I would get back to 100%. I would reclaim the old Philip. And it was around this time that I started to realize I could look in the mirror and I actually had to come to terms with the fact that, you know what? He's not coming back. So yeah, I can see it from his point of view. I can. That, you know, the person you love is morphing into someone else slowly before your eyes in every single conceivable way. I'm not saying it justifies anything. I can see how the allure was dissipating. It got so bad between us that my ex started sleeping on the floor in the brother's room. The brothers shared a room, and then we had a room who were side by side. Now, the on the floor bit isn't what was odd. So a little backstory on that. For a while now, me and my ex couldn't sleep in the same bed. Mainly because my ex is a very restless sleeper. When he would sleep, his leg, if this is the bed, his leg would just bounce off the bed. And it was every night. It was just some weird REM sleep tic thing he had, some involuntary movement thing. Also, my ex was almost 6'2", so he's very tall, skinny dude. You know, if you're in a full bed and someone is restless, they're going to more than likely hit you and bump into you during the night while they sleep. And if you remember, I'm sleeping on my back with pillows, and I have to be as still as possible. And being moved involuntarily, being startled, even to this day, you'll have to be very rigid. I have some range of motion now. Like, you'll see me move my arms and my head and whatnot now, but I'm moving within the confines of what I know I can do. And even then, occasionally you'll hear something pop or crack or move while I record. And it's just the nature of the beast. I'm very brittle, very fragile. But more so then, especially after second accident, but I'm more so then. So it's hard to share a bed with someone who is a restless sleeper that moves a lot, that can possibly, if he kicks me in the middle of the night, that could make any number of things happen. You know, if I'm trying to fall asleep and I'm finally hitting that little window of sleep, which exists to this day. I have a window of sleep that I have to try and take advantage of. If I go too soon or wait too long, I won't go to sleep. So if I have that little window of sleep as I'm laying there on my back and I'm just drifting off and all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom on the bed, it's gonna wake you up. And it was extremely annoying. It didn't bother me before because I was a very deep sleeper before the accident. Well, the first accident. I wasn't now. I'm still a very light sleeper to this day. And so that's why he was sleeping on the floor or on the couch. Not because I wanted it, of course not, but because I couldn't sleep. I don't know what else to say about it. It was what it was, and it is still what it is to this day. And it's certainly not what I wish things were. I'm not happy about it. I wasn't happy about it then. I don't get to cuddle or fall asleep in the arms of the person I love. Yay. And that's what I had to kind of come to terms with in my life, was that I can't dwell on these things. I can't. They just have to be what they are and accept them for what they are and just deal with it. Because if I dwell on them, I will not survive. If I dwell on all of the loss and negativity and pain and all of it, I will not survive. And that was one of the things I had to accept it for what it was. So I get from his point of view then also how the distance was already there, but I always thought our bond was strong enough as people that the physical stuff was just physical stuff. It's just the hand we've been dealt, you know, and I wasn't happy about any of it. I know he wasn't either, so I understand from his point of view. I get it. The sleeping on the floor thing was not what was weird. The sleeping on the floor in the brother's room was weird. It was kind of a warning sign for me that maybe this is a bit more serious than I thought. Our relationship issues are more serious than I thought. Because I always assumed that eventually we would talk and things would be evened out and work out. And when the person that you love is in love with someone else and they're very aggressive about it and they're moving the chess pieces around and you can feel them drifting away, your relationship is fracturing because they're devoting all of their extra time and energy into that someone else. You know, he has that tunnel vision focus, that new goal. So if someone is hanging out with someone else and they're not even trying to work on the relationship or even understand what that other person is going through, they're going through hard times, and I get that. And so he's going through hard times. He's not trying. There's a severe lack of empathy on purpose because he has this goal, as said, this new goal. And then where was I given the fair chance to even try and mend the gap? I'm not only trying to figure out my relationship, but I'm also mired in all of his other stuff. It's just this chaos, this like chaos of pain, and I'm getting more dumped on me because of what's going on. It really, it amped up after the second accident because from everyone, really. It was just like, it's not that bad. Pick yourself up and move on. It's not that easy. I lost all momentum. Fate just pretty much screwed me because it waited until the exact moment that I was turning a corner and then took it all away, pulled the rug out from under me and laughed as I fell. And no one understood what that second accident did to me. No one understood the toll it took on me. Not even the one person who should have understood more than anyone. Like emotionally and physically, I don't think he ever really got how bad it was for me. And how it just continued and it never ended and I never got better. And right when I started to get better, boom, second accident, back to the beginning. Here we go again. Second verse, same as the first, and it's 2 freaking years long. I'm stuck in a room. I'm stuck in my head. I'm stuck in this body that will not heal. I'm stuck in every single way. He wasn't around to talk to. And if he was around, he didn't want to talk to me. I wasn't a consideration much. And I became less and less of one as time went on. I think my ex was just looking for exits. And he was searching hard for ways to not forget about me because I'm there. And he did have to stick around. We'll get to that in a bit. I don't know how to put it. I'm just there stuck every single day. And I want him to know that. If you ever watch this, I was in that house every single day. Now I know you saw some stuff. I know, I heard the stories about the verbal and physical abuse that you saw. You could hop in the car with Justin or go leave on your own and you could just leave and go and just escape and get out. I'm stuck in this house. I'm a prisoner in my body. I'm a prisoner in my head. I have no lifelines to anything. I'm there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single week. I'm dealing with my body going through the same stuff and I'm trying to find any reason to hang on and keep going another day. And I desperately want my boyfriend back. And I can't because he doesn't want to come back. He's looking for his way out. I didn't realize it. So at the time, I'm just confused. And maybe a way out is too strong, too harsh, but it felt like maybe he was just looking for his own escape. Maybe he was just looking for his own release. Again, devil's advocate, looking at it from his point of view. And I understand that. You can find, that escape, that release, that solace somewhere else, but not have to distance yourself or take it out on or manipulate this person who's already defeated. That's just what it felt like from my point of view, my side of the story. So I'm very, cognizant of that. I realize that. I'm not trying to go overboard in skewing the situation. These are just how things happen. Now, remember earlier when I said that we were paying the $35 a week to the family to help out? A few months later, we're in the spring of 2012. And the dad asks us if we can go from 35 to 100. And we were okay. At this point, we're paying $400 a month. The reason he was asking for more was because he was starting to do his own entrepreneurial thing. And, his thing was, if you can help us out here, this will make it easier for me to try and get my business off the ground. And we're like, okay, no problem. He did promise us, though, that the amount would go back down if things started taking off. Put a pin in that.